So you mentioned it before. So you're not the difference between '08 and now is not even comparable.
No, like I said, '08 was just a crazy time. Mortgage-backed securities were created. They weren't what they.
Can you
were
explain
really
what a mortgage-backed security is?
So, you go back in the day, the example I give people is you think about the movie It's a Wonderful Life. You had the Bailey Building and loan. People deposited money, and then the bank lent that money out to people for mortgages, and banking was pretty boring. It was kind of how it worked.
He doesn't know It's a Wonderful Life. There's no
Yes,
chance.
he does.
No
You know the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
No chance.
You need to talk to
So
your parents.
you got to reset
So,
that.
so a building and loan or a savings and loan or a bank, for majority of our time back in the early 1900s, 1800s, people would deposit money. And then when somebody wanted to come in and buy a house, they would use that money to lend to them, and they would pay back interest. And then interest would go towards their expenses, their profit, and some of the interest would go to pay people who had their money on deposit. It was a in and out.
Money in, money out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a guy by the name of Lou Ranieri came up with the idea of saying, you know what, people want to invest in bonds, right? So when a municipality or a township or a state wants to borrow money, they create a bond. And they say, hey, we're going to build a new municipal building, and we're raising $5 million, and it's a 10-year bond, and it pays 5%. And they were seen as very safe, boring investments. Well, Lou got the idea and said, you know what? Nothing's safer than real estate. Real estate never goes down. So we're going to take all these mortgages and package them together, and we're going to call it a mortgage-backed security. And these 1,000 mortgages pay an average of 6%, and you can invest in that, right? So you can say, I want to. So that's what happened. But as I said before, there's only so many homes being sold in the United States, right? There's only so many mortgages being created. So as people really liked that, the demand increased. And they said, hey, I want to buy more of those mortgage-backed securities. And bankers along the way said, well, gee, we don't really have any more mortgages to put in there that are good quality mortgages. So let's lower the down payment required. Let's lower and they started putting riskier and riskier
That was the
loans.
beginning of the end.
And where it fell apart was they didn't disclose that. So the rating agencies continued to tell people that these were AAA, they were safe.
Right.
And, in order to look under the hood, you'd have to really look at every mortgage to see, wait a minute, half that stuff is garbage. And when those people stop making their payments, this thing's going to fall apart, which is eventually what happened, right? There were too many people getting loans who didn't have good credit, didn't have a good down payment, didn't have a job or a low-paying job and couldn't afford it. And once they stopped making their payments, the bonds eventually cratered.
And then the banks didn't have the money to then pay out the interest rates.
Well, the banks that held, were long on these mortgage-backed securities went under.
Right.
And it just becomes a domino.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this clip, be sure to check this one out right here because it's just as good or maybe even better. Cheers.